So, we've talked about the southern border on this channel before, right? We've talked about the southern border crisis. We all know about it. Thousands, hundreds of thousands of people have been flooding the gates, flooding into the country for months now. And the Biden administration and the Democrats seem to not care or pretend that it's not a problem.
No doubt about it. Our border is secure. And we're in the midst of a humanitarian crisis.
Wait,
and
you think it is secure? You think the border is secure?
But Biden has started building the wall again. Trump's wall started building more parts of it because they have no choice but to really, because they know what's going on. They just pretend like it's not happening. But one border that we don't speak about or even think about or even really know about is in the direction of Santa Claus, the northern border. That only came to my attention because I seen Vivek Ramaswamy talk about it, and he actually went there. He is pointing out how easy it was to just cross over it. No one's gonna catch you. Like literally, nobody's gonna catch you.
First, I want to see for myself what's actually happening, what exactly is going on with the amount of fentanyl that crossed the northern border last year. Enough to kill over 3 million Americans.
And, I thought about that. I'm like, dang, well, who's even going through there? Like, isn't that Canada? Who's sneaking over from Canada here? You know what I'm saying? What demons from Canada are coming to America? I don't know. Apparently, there's much more to that story that I never really knew about until a viewer pointed out to me and sent me some videos to review. And I was like, you know what? Let's just watch them live, okay? Even though this isn't live, but this is the first time I'm watching the videos. I know the gist of what they're going to be talking about, but you're going to get my live reaction to the information that we're about to see. All right, here's the first video breaking down how Chinese gangs are laundering drug money through real estate around the world. Because that's another thing. That's one of the main things that's coming through the southern border. Fentanyl, right? And you see in places like San Francisco, Seattle, you see all these people dying and doped up on the street. The opioid epidemic. A lot of these people are high on fentanyl, bro. Fetty, dog. Fetty. Fetty. And a lot of that fentanyl is coming from China. Because listen, the way it's coming is that American companies, they get their fentanyl from, American pharmaceutical companies get their fentanyl from China. They got to deal with China. They get it from China. But China saw that they can also make money by selling fentanyl to the cartels in Mexico. But it's not that they're selling fentanyl itself. They're just selling the components that's needed to create fentanyl. You know what I'm saying? So it's a lot cheaper. It's under the table, and they can make more profit that way. And now, all these cartels are taking the fentanyl and then sending people through the border up in Southern California and other places, and they work for the cartel now. Now they got to sell. They got to move product. They got to sell the product. So this is seemingly breaking down some of that. Let's go.
Guangdong province in southern China, home to 100 million people,
Sheesh.
And known to investigators as the world's factory. Here, Chinese transnational crime groups use factories to create chemicals, narcotics, counterfeit goods, and products for illegal export. All of this facilitated by the casinos, VIP gamblers, and organized crime junket lending operators who lend money to VIP gamblers in Macau in the west.
Money lenders.
And in Hong Kong in the east,
Loan
by
sharks.
banks, financial firms, and law firms that provide services to global criminals. The factories churn out methamphetamine and the chemical precursors for fentanyl.
See? That's what I was talking about. The chemical precursors. That's what I meant by the components needed to make fentanyl. That's where they get it. That's where they get it from, bro.
Are then transported around the world by ship or plane via criminally controlled international shipping routes.
Yeah.
The drugs and chemicals go to the West Coast drug dealing networks with connections in Vancouver and Calgary.
Uh-oh. Vancouver. See, now y'all might be wondering why did I bring up Canada, right? Why did I bring up the northern border? What is the connection here?
The money from drug dealing is laundered in the casinos first, where the VIP gamblers from China are gambling. Then, from the casinos, cash and checks go into underground banks in Vancouver, which send the money back to banks in Hong Kong and Guangdong, China. Hong Kong law offices transfer the cash to offshore shell companies in Panama, the British Virgin Islands, or the Cayman Islands.
Damn.
Which can then get routed back to underground banks and law firms in Vancouver. and that laundered money is used to buy luxury real estate there. The laundered money that remains in China goes back into criminal-controlled Guangdong factories to make more chemicals and counterfeit goods to ship to Vancouver and elsewhere around the world, including Australia. And the cycle continues.
Isn't that crazy? It's like it's a whole enterprise, bro. It's a whole criminal enterprise. When did this come out? So this is something that was made 5 years ago. So they've been doing this. It's not anything new. This is an operation that's been going on. They're making bread, bro. They're making bread. These international criminals, they smart. They know what to do. And they got people that work with them, bro. I said it and will always say it. Canada must ban the purchase of real estate by foreign nationals. And this is why a lot of people, we've seen it in the Republican debates. They've been talking about, banning China from owning real estate. I think only one place. What's the one place that banned China from owning real estate? Was it the place where the Burnham dude's from? A look at which U.S. states are banning Chinese nationals from buying property. So DeSantis, and this is from, when was this? May 2023. DeSantis signed on Monday a series of bills that, among other measures, limit Chinese nationals from purchasing land in the state, while new laws also target entities in the fields of Russia, Iran, North Korea, Cuba, Venezuela, and Syria. DeSantis made it clear China was the most serious security threat. Okay, so that's Florida. Texas Senate recently passed a bill which would ban Chinese, Iranian, Russian, and North Korean nationals from purchasing real property defined as agricultural land and improvement located. Okay. The bill was watered down from the original draft that aimed to ban all property sales, including home purchases of citizens and dual nationals of this country. Yeah, I don't think that would go through. A copycat bill also aims to ban students from these countries from attending public universities within the state. That would need some proof behind it, because I can see the reason behind that being, they're going to send agents over here to push certain ideas, like communist type ideas that we don't like, but they'll need some proof of that, because otherwise it sounds crazy. Montana's Republican Governor Greg Gianforte on May 5th signed a law restrictions on individuals and businesses from China purchasing or leasing agricultural land, critical infrastructure, and homes near military assets. Okay. The law also applies to affiliates of Cuba, Iran, North Korea, Russia, and Venezuela. Go said he would sign a statewide ban on TikTok, which would make Montana the first state to okay. Did he do it? I don't know. Alabama state legislators have introduced a property bill that only targets Chinese citizens and businesses. Unlike other bills, the language does not currently elaborate on what constitutes real property. Legal. Okay, so Alabama needs to be more clear on what they're trying to do. Several other states have considered new legislation against selling property to China. While some are debating or have enacted laws that bar land of any. Okay. Georgia, Arizona, North Dakota, South Dakota, Missouri, Idaho, Mississippi, Utah, South Carolina, Wyoming, California, Virginia, Kentucky, Tennessee, Arkansas, West Virginia, Indiana, Kansas, and Washington. So they've all considered it, or at least talked about it. You don't see okay, never mind. I was about to say you don't see California, but it's right there. This video right here is gonna expand on the money laundering that they mentioned through the casinos and stuff.
Dirty secrets from Canada's casino industry are finally being spilled.
Uh-oh.
Stories of outrageous money laundering, of suspected crime money coming into government-run casinos, hundreds of thousands of dollars at a time, most of it in $20 bills, night after night, by high rollers connected to gangsters. And no one did much about it.
Come on, Justin Trudeau, what are you doing? That's your country.
The mob reporter here with news of how the casinos on Canada's west coast were being used and abused by organized crime for years, and how it is finally being exposed. Let me tell you about it. The province of British Columbia on Canada's beautiful west coast is in the midst of a reckoning, facing how it allowed its popular casinos to fall under the spell of transnational organized crime, particularly at the destination casinos around Metro Vancouver. It was so successful in moving money that the way it was done became known around the world as the Vancouver model.
Damn.
Much of it, according to allegations, involved this man,
Paul King Jin.
But we'll come back to him in a moment. First, the money. Hundreds of millions of dollars in questionable money was being pushed through cashier slots at BC's casinos. What you see here is actual video of some of those transactions. Patrons walking in with plastic bags, suitcases, and grocery bags filled with bands on bands on bands. Wads of stacked cash, bricks of booze, held together by elastic
bands on bands on bands.
The money was hardly ever refused. One former head of security said if a customer had identification, he could only think of a couple of times the cash was turned away. Once when it was covered in blood, another when it was partially burned. Links between the suspicious money and Asian organized crime was clear by 2008. How bad was it? One head of casino security investigations said his team couldn't do much to stop the patrons, investigate them, or even ask them where the cash was coming from, because the gangs were too strong and confronting them too dangerous. Here it is in his words.
You couldn't have asked the service provider to give notice to one of your investigators when a large amount of cash comes in the door. Let us know so we can come in and interview the person. That's beyond your capabilities as special constables?
Yes, because they are associated with organized crime, and we don't have the capacity to investigate organized crime or any of the other protections that we have.
Oh, but you could go in and speak to the patron, couldn't you?
Patrons often had someone with them. And again, nearby, there was usually somebody that was there just to watch over.
The use of government licensed casinos for
So what can they do? It's like they pretty much have free reign, bro. The only other people they got to worry about is like other criminals, I guess.
money laundering is currently under public scrutiny. A commission of inquiry is underway. It is known as the Cullen Commission, named after its commissioner, Austin Cullen, a BC Supreme Court Justice. A major theme that's emerged is the innovative use of casino Supreme Court justice of two groups, both of which have a money movement problem. First, there were the drug gangs and crime groups in Canada choking on the cash flowing in from their activities. They need to find a way to launder it, meaning to metaphorically clean it up so it looks like money earned through legitimate means that can be invested.
So while Canada is worried about blocking and tracking what you're looking up and watching on the internet, they got all this shit going on in their backyard. Isn't that crazy?
Without triggering police investigations or government asset seizures. The second group were foreign high rollers, usually visiting wealthy Chinese citizens who loved to gamble in Vancouver but couldn't bring their money with them after China imposed money export rules to stem the tidal wave of capital flight. In the casino industry, they call these compulsive gamblers whales, and casinos want whales more than I want your clicks. This is how the Vancouver method worked. A patron is waiting outside a casino for men who are identified as members of a criminal organization. A gangster arrives with 2 plastic bags full of cash, and the two go into a restaurant beside the casino to try to avoid the casino's security cameras. The bags of cash change hands quickly. And as the gangster drives away, the patron, now carrying the bags, walks into the casino. He strolls through the gaming floor to the VIP cashiers and plops them on the counter to exchange them for casino chips. Here's the top-down view from the casino's cash cage. Each of these bundles is about $20,000. Most are $20 bills.
Damn,
some
boy.
are 50s. So there's
20 bands, 2, 4, 6, 8, 100 bands right there, and more.
$20,000 here. Here's some are 50s. So there's $20,000 here.
Wait, hold on, what do you say?
Bills. Here's the top-down view from the casino's cash cage. Each of these bundles is about $20,000. Most are $20.
Yeah, each of those bundles is $20,000. So right here, 2, 4, 6, 8. There's already 80,000 right there. 80 bands right there. That's 20 bands in that bit? Damn, that's crazy, bro.
Dollar bills. Some are 50s. So there's $20,000 here. Here's a second transaction. This guy also collects bags from someone he met outside, or perhaps in a washroom where there aren't cameras. The cash cage view of this transaction shows it's much larger, with more $50 bills. And a third
Wow.
one. This reusable shopping bag gets dumped out on the counter by the cashier.
Well, maybe by bundle. Maybe when he said bundle, I'm thinking he meant like one rubber band. So maybe he meant just that whole everything in the bag.
Here. Under a newspaper cover, out tumbles $500,000.
Oh wait, no. So no, never mind. Yeah, because 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 12. Oh my gosh, bro. Oh yeah. That's big bread, bruh. That's crazy. This is crazy shit. Yo.
And finally, here's $1 million transaction. 2 men carrying 2 bags, and they look heavy.
$1 million.
And this happened over and over, almost each day for years.
Every day.
The scheme shows the ingenuity and global reach of the gangsters. Casinos at first threw up their arms and said it can't be money laundering because these whales are losing most of their money during their gambling binges. They're walking out of there with almost nothing, not with clean checks that can be deposited into a bank, which is the usual end game in a laundering service. What was really happening was something more sophisticated.
What's happening?
The gamblers, the ones going into the casino with the bags of cash, weren't really there to launder the cash. They just wanted to play. But for those coming from cash-restrictive countries, such as China or Iran, they can't bring suitcases of their own cash like they used to. So they pick up the cash in Vancouver. They first must pay for it by moving the money from their bank account in China to another account within China, one that's controlled by the gangsters in Canada or by their associates. Once the gangsters in Vancouver get word that the money's arrived in China, they give the patron the equivalent amount in Canadian cash, which is allegedly the proceeds of their own crime. The money, in essence, moves between countries without ever crossing a border. The Cullen Commission has heard allegations that much of the money was linked to Paul King Jin. The 51-year-old Jin is described as a well-known loan shark. He is suspected of deep ties to gambling and to the running of an underground bank, the kind of underground bank used to facilitate the Vancouver method of money laundering. Jin is a former championship boxer from China, according to reporting by my friends and colleagues at the Vancouver Sun.
Damn.
He immigrated to Canada in 1989, living first in Montreal, then in Toronto, before settling on the West Coast. He opened a spa and later a large gym, fitness and boxing club. He became a Canadian citizen a few years after arriving here. Police found more than $4 million cash in a safe in his apartment in 2015, and he once told an officer, "My name is Money."
Do you know the U.S. solar company's nasty little secret?
Yeah, he was a
It turns
boxer.
out, if you live in Florida, they have to give you solar panels for...
You know, something
Jim
that's
Seymour.
really interesting, it kind of relates to this a little bit. I just finished watching a show on Netflix called Bloodhounds. My dog put me on. It's about these two boxers. It's a Korean show. It takes place in Korea. And it's about these two boxers, and there's this group of loan sharks that go around giving people fake-ass deals. Give them fake deals saying, okay, here's a loan with this much money, boom, and you don't have to pay back with this low interest. But in the fine print, it would say if they don't pay back like half of it or something like that, boom. Like if they don't pay back like half of it or 10% of it in the first week, boom, they owe, the interest jumps up to like 30% or some shit. So pretty much, you know, they own you. They own you. You got to keep giving them money. And the boxers have to like hunt down the loan shark because he gets one of their moms on one of those deals, fake ass deals, scamming her, and they have to track her down. And it's funny because one of the things that the main kingpin of it that he's trying to do, he's trying to build a casino on top of a hotel to launder money through. So it's just really funny that that's what that show was about. And now I'm watching this, and you know, look how it kind of connects a little bit. Except it's not Korea, it's China. And it's a whole bigger enterprise, bigger organization than just what was in that show.
Concerned about what might be said about him at the Cullen Commission, so much so he asked for standing so his lawyer could be involved during the inquiry process. Jin seems to have more to worry about than the testimony. In September 2020, just before live testimony at the Cullen Commission was set to focus on casino cash, Jin was shot at in what was called a targeted attack at a Japanese restaurant in Richmond, BC.
Whoa.
Jin survived, but a man he was with, described as his associate involved in money laundering, died. That man ran a massive underground bank that faced prosecution in a massive money laundering probe called Project E-Pirate.
Who tried to
But
shoot
the
him?
case collapsed in 2019 before being prosecuted in court. The bank had ties to China, Mexico, and Colombia. Jin still faces civil forfeiture actions by the province targeting his gym. He has denied the allegations against him. After weeks of testimony on the casinos, a picture emerges of gaping holes in regulation and enforcement, of a reluctance to risk hurting profits by cracking down on suspicious transactions, and of ignorance, perhaps willful ignorance, to what was really going on. The Cullen Commission hearings continue. The Commission is expected to make recommendations, and who knows, it may bring about change. Bulk cash transactions, meanwhile, were banned at BC casinos at the end of 2018. The question still remains of what damage was caused by more than a decade of virtually unrestrained money laundering, money coming in and going out with a stamp of approval by the government. Thanks for watching.
Damn, more than a decade, bro. Them people was eating sweet, boy. That was a sweat for real, boy. They said, "What's the sweat?" And yeah, with a stamp approved by the government. Because what that guy say? Oh, it was too dangerous. They didn't have the resources to really combat that. Is that the truth, or they were in on it? You know, my spidey sense is telling me that there's much more involved with this. Many more people, many more players involved that I barely scratched the surface of. It's very interesting, bro. It's very interesting. Because something like this doesn't go down without people in high places knowing, okay? Hell nah. Willful Blindness by Sam Cooper is a great book on the subject for anyone who wants more detailed info on what's going on in Vancouver. It always confused me why Vancouver was so expensive when there are no signs of any industry to drive it. After reading that book, Vancouver starts to make sense. It's basically built like how Miami was built. It's a narco-fueled economy, and the BC government let it happen for the tax revenue. Pretty much they make money, the criminals make money, the government makes money. We all gonna make some money. It is what it is. Yeah, they turn a blind eye to certain shit because they making bread. That's how shit go, bro. I'm glad it's being addressed. This is a known issue to us here in Vancouver. Back in the day, I heard a random stranger bragging from across the room at a party about how his associate and him laundered $400K through a casino, even worked security the evening of so they could keep an eye on their money. I don't know the truth of this story, but it isn't far off from the general understanding we Van folk have on the situation. Clear, concise, and consumable. The MR is on his game and knows who to blame. Responsible reporting is getting almost impossible to find. Yeah, I like this channel already. I'm gonna subscribe. This is 2 years ago, so I wonder if he's still doing this. Because really talking about this stuff is kind of dangerous, I ain't gonna lie to you. Because these people have power, bro. They got connections here in America, in Canada, in Mexico, in China. Vancouver, China's narco hub city in Canada. See, yeah, so in this video, didn't really talk too much about anything with drugs, right? Or going over the border to America. This one, seemingly, might be diving into that. Because of narcotics. Okay, let's see what's up. China, using an international network of triads, has transformed Vancouver to a narco hub, pumping the city full of fentanyl and causing an opioid epidemic. Let's see. China Unscripted.
So how does the drug trafficking tie into this? Because what you've said right now just kind of describes like money laundering, but there's also drugs.
Right. So this comes back to these underground banks, which it's not limited, of course, to mainland China citizens. We see this ancient form of banking. It's known as hawala in the Middle East. It exists in many cultures, but it's a huge form of underground banking and finance in China because, as my hosts know, that there's a big distrust of the government in there among citizens of China. And the people that control them, the authoritarians, there's distrust there. So people are very used to hiding their assets or the fear that they'll be taken away willy-nilly. So the underground banking, the Chinese citizens, whether they're a corrupt official, a drug trafficker, or a computer programmer, for them to get some security outside China, they must use that organized crime bank. Those banks are built on decades of heroin wealth. This is organized crime at a very, deep and powerful level.
Damn.
And it's run essentially through family banks or, at a high level, you could compare them to mafia banks in other cultures. It's very family related. So the bank in Wuhan is related to the bank in Richmond. On both sides, it's drug money.
They don't make no movies about these Chinese cartels, boy. You're going to see a lot of shit about the Italian mob. You're going to see a lot of shit, The Godfather, Scarface. You're going to see a lot of shit like that. The Sopranos. But, hey, these Chinese niggas be getting down too, boy. No, they be cutthroat. They be cutthroat for real. These people will kill you, chop your head off. For real.
Deep, deep, deep pockets of criminal
money. They kill your whole family.
But that what could be legitimate money in China that needs to get out is facilitated by the drug banks. So you put the credit down in China, you arrive in Richmond, and you're getting paid out with cash drug money. You have to have professionals that will launder that money. You have to have the casinos that will look the other way, the real estate industry that will look the other way. But that money is going on a loop back to China to fund more drug imports. That's where that opium war in reverse comes in. So really the drug money, I call it, it's almost like it's fluid. It's a leverage to get money of all types around the world moving. and it facilitates the shipment of drugs around the world.
Just for some broader context for our audience, we talk a lot on the show about the Chinese Communist Party's unrestricted warfare, that the Communist Party considers itself at war with the West. And drug warfare is a big aspect of this. And it's funny because last week we had on the show Rosemary Gibson, who wrote a book called China RX. And she was mentioning that, while all of this Chinese fentanyl is winding up in the United States, I don't know what the fentanyl situation is in Canada off the top of my head.
See, it's so funny too. If y'all ever seen Daredevil, right? Season 1 of Daredevil, there's a couple of different antagonists in the show in the first season. The main one was Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin, and he had different partners that were doing different things. There was the two Russian brothers, and they were doing a lot of money laundering and transporting through their taxi business. There was Madame Gao, which is the old Chinese lady, or the one you think is Chinese, she's actually Japanese, but she had a lot of illegal immigrants. She had a lot of immigrants coming in that spoke no English, and they was preparing drugs. They're preparing fentanyl. They're preparing opioids, and they're pushing it throughout the city. I think it was technically heroin, but in the same drug family. And it's just funny that this is what they got the inspiration from for that, because it's known. This is something that's known, right? Anybody that knows about international, transnational crime knows that a lot of this fentanyl comes from China, bro. A regular person like me, and some of y'all watching this probably don't have no idea about none of that. Me, I'm only barely scratching the surface about this shit. I didn't really know for real. I didn't know. But this is really, putting out some information on me, bro. I'm definitely going to dive more into this.
But so while there's this opioid epidemic being fueled by Chinese drugs, at the same time, China controls a lot of the global medical supply chain and has been cutting back on the amount of medicine that you give people having overdoses. They've been cutting back on that.
Whoa.
So you kind of see like this multifaceted drug warfare.
Whoa.
That like as you were saying earlier, it's hard for us to imagine that our governments would be doing something like this. So how could the Chinese government be doing something like that? But the reality is, this is warfare.
It is.
At some level,
It is, and that's how it is for a lot of things, bro. War. We're in a new era, okay? We're in a new era, and war is not only fought on battlefields with soldiers throwing their lives away, trying to kill each other for political purposes. War is done on multiple fronts: on a technological front, on a social front, on an economic front, and on this front with the drugs. If you can weaken the populace, because China has a whole 50-year plan to become the next superpower, right? That was a FBI or a CIA agent was talking about that in a video I saw a long time ago. Like, probably when I was still in high school, I seen that video. So it's funny seeing all this stuff that's been happening, behind the scenes up until now. If you can weaken the populace, whether it be through drugs or through ideology, you are on a step to winning. If you look at China, a lot of people that live in China, they're all on the same page. Okay, they're a lot of them on the same page with the government, and they do what the government wants them to do, bro. It is what it is, because that's how their government work. They're real people. America is very individualistic, very free. There's a lot of liberty, a lot of freedom. So I think what a lot of America's enemies are trying to use that freedom and individuality against itself. Okay. So it's kind of the paradox of freedom. We're free to destroy ourselves. You know what I mean? Because look, I mean, you see all the time. You see these kids on TikTok. A lot of these people in these college universities. They say a lot of anti-American things. They say a lot of things that are generally not good for America's interest. They don't have. And look at a lot of these politicians too. They don't have an American first agenda. They focus on outside influences, other countries, because they make money. They got lobbyists. Okay. It seems to me, from my little understanding, that America is becoming a playground for those with other nefarious interests. I think America is in the way of because some of these people want like a one world government, bro. And I think America is in the way of that. America's the top superpower. So I think there are people that are trying to erode away American values and the idea that America was founded on. You know what I'm saying? The foundation of America. They're trying to erode it. You got all these people saying they hate America, they hate America, they hate America. And I've said it before, especially as a black person, right? In America, it's okay to criticize America. It's okay to criticize the things that people in charge have done. Because there are people in charge in America that have done and still do things that are not in the best interest of American citizens. Like black people, for example. You know? But there's a difference between criticizing things that are bad and just saying that, oh, you know, fuck this country, fuck everything, destroy it all, and let's start all over, tear it down so we can build it back up. No. And I definitely don't agree with the tear it down thing. And it made me think about in that one of the last Jubilee videos I reacted to, with the former conservatives versus the former liberals. The one gay black dude that was a former conservative was like, oh no, we just need to tear everything down and start over. The thing is, some of these people want us to, especially some of these Chinese agents, want us to tear everything down. They want us to tear it all up, tear it down, so we can build it back up. Because who is going to be there in the process of building it back up? People with agendas. Okay, you think shit is bad now? It's going to be even bad. It's going to be even worse after that. Because that's one of the most opportune moments to strike, when a nation, an empire, is building itself back up, when leadership is in disarray, the government is disarray, and they're trying to build it back up. That's how you get people in there to pretend. They'll pretend that they have your best intentions at heart, but they have nefarious plans behind the scenes. Let's keep going, though.
I have seen enough to judge that through omission of enforcement, through corruption, that is, officials that regulate and could shut the fentanyl precursor factories down at a moment's notice if they wanted to, but are making so much money from the pharmaceutical industry. And through corruption, we know some of them are making so much money from the illicit fentanyl industry. It doesn't matter. All of those channels are profitable to China. So if they were good faith partners with, Western governments, if they weren't involved in something, whether you call it gray zone conflict, asymmetric war, unrestricted war, people are comfortable with different levels of terminology. But what is occurring and what cannot be denied is there's a conflict that is below armed conflict, but there are strategic elements to it. I'm one that I don't always judge that the people over in Beijing have everything all figured out. They make mistakes. There's so many actors involved, many self-interested, that it would be hard to see just a computer level efficiency to this gray zone or asymmetric warfare. Mm-hmm. But it's occurring. And again, I come back to the point of what I call sort of my more aggressive sort of intelligence analyst sources do say, if Hezbollah wants to harm the West using drugs, it's not a huge leap to judge that some in China may as well.
Yeah, definitely.
And now you also mentioned this, which is just, it's like you pulled a thread and so many things came unraveled. This also ties into the what's happening with the real estate market in Vancouver, driving up the housing prices. And I imagine that's making a lot of residents there upset.
It is. And you said that you're not exactly sure what the fentanyl situation is in Canada. I can tell you that compared to West Virginia, Vancouver is the second highest level of harm in North America. I used to report from the epicenter, that's the downtown east side in Vancouver. Again, as a Canadian, I would never have thought that I could see such a place with such literally war zone type conditions.
I'm thinking, while I'm watching this, I'm also thinking of the title of what this video would be. It has to be something inflammatory that gets the point across. I'm thinking how Canada is helping China destroy America. Because that's what this is doing. Have you seen the videos of these homeless people, these junkies in the street? I've seen it in real life. A lot of them are hooked on fentanyl, heroin, opioids. They're in the street. That's how they're in the street, like zombies. In front of kids. The children are seeing this. And look where it all stems from. Because there are people in China that want to destroy America. And how do you destroy a nation? You make their people weak. This is what they want. This is what they want. And there are people in power that know this is going on in places like Canada. And they let it happen because they're making bread. Follow the money. Follow the money. You smell that? Follow the money.
Conditions of addicts so devastated by heroin and fentanyl. And yes, in the book I found that, look, Chinese transnational cartels have a very strong base of operations, especially in cities like Vancouver and Toronto. They're making so much money. This underground banking that I'm describing that both facilitates a huge flow of money from China, some of it legitimate, some of it illegitimate, but all mixed in with organized crime, underground banking. That money is just bursting to the surface in Vancouver. So the illicit money is mixing in with the licit, the banks, the casinos. I'm not going to call them licit. They've proven themselves to be illicit businesses. Currency exchanges are entirely corrupted in some areas of Vancouver. And this has to have a major effect on Vancouver real estate prices. My example or my data point here is this has led, through some of my reporting, to a commission of inquiry into money laundering in BC, led by a BC high-level judge.
Vancouver,
and in
BC.
his interim report, he said money laundering is a huge problem in Vancouver. It's tearing the fabric of democracy and society. We haven't heard his final report yet, but what I judge from that, because I reported on these issues, is hot money, when it comes in large volumes into a city, it chases out good money. It raises the real estate prices. And so the businesses, the good businesses, the citizens that are working hard to pay taxes, save for their children's university, they're being pushed out of the center of this, what we have to call a narco hub city. And that people, of course, people are up in arms, and they should be about that.
Let's be real. Life can get tough to say the least, and especially without someone to talk to. And as men,
you wouldn't really think of Vancouver as a narco hub city.
You wouldn't. There's so many ironies and mind-blowing findings for me in the process of reporting this book, and it's true. I had to go back and look at how what we call the tycoons of Hong Kong started to buy large portions of Vancouver real estate in the late 80s. This coincided with the arrival of triads that are very related to the tycoons and a flow in of heroin. And that the real estate and the drug money can't be separated in my analysis.
So just again, a lot of these casinos, they're not just privately run casinos. A lot of them are run by the government, correct?
These are BC Lottery Corporation casinos. And it's shocking that a government casino, again, I tell people in Las Vegas and Macau, the jurisdictions much larger, much more known for casino activity, you could not have that brazen level of drug money laundering going into those casinos. They have credit systems. They're in some ways, I'm not going to say Macau is not more connected to organized crime, because there's more organized crime in Macau, but still, you can't have the appearance of a hockey bag of 20s or whatever the relevant currency is in Macau going into the casino. They're a little bit more, I would say, smart than the officials in BC. And yes, these are casinos that my research showed once the game Baccarat and higher bet limits were introduced in 1997, that coincided very well with the arrival of the triads from Macau and Hong Kong, and the money laundering that was accepted by the local police and BC government just rose exponentially from that point. And I tell people I never stop being shocked at the brazenness of the criminality that infiltrated the casinos in BC.
Damn, boy. So what we've dove into today is really just scratching the surface, and it's like a basic overview of the corruption and the corruption that's been running rampant for years. Because remember, in the money laundering video, that money laundering has been going on for a decade, at least a decade. But really, it's been more than that. And just like I was saying, a lot of different things that happened in the 90s laid the groundwork for this stuff to be happening, right? When these the triads start showing up, a lot of the tycoons in Hong Kong were buying up these properties and stuff. And look how the corruption in Canada is just a tool for China to use to funnel drugs into America through the southern border and the northern border that Vivek went to and took a video over there. You see how this all connects, bro? But no one even talks about the northern border. No one talks about it. America, as far as I've seen, America hasn't said nothing about anything when it comes to China and Vancouver, China and Canada. But, you know, it's so crazy. But then a lot of this stuff starts making sense when you look at the type of place Canada is. A bunch of fucking liberal-ass motherfuckers run Canada. And while they're focused on, like I said, making sure that they know who's watching right-wing content and making sure that, truckers that protest go to jail, they're letting all this crime come through from China run rampant because it's hurting America. Look at this shit, bro. Look at this shit. I told you, China got a plan, bro. China's up to something. Kendrick Lamar said Russia's up to something, but China's the one that been up to something for real. Them boys is smart and they sneaky. And again, I'm not acting like I know everything, because I don't. But I see something. You know what I'm saying? I peep game. Them niggas is smart as hell. Look what they doing, bro. Let's look at the comments a little bit. Being a citizen of Vancouver, I can back up everything said in this interview 200%. We have sold our souls to the drug money launderers who are allowed by multiple administrations to operate with impunity for decades here. Decades, there you go. And continue to do so, forcing out the hardworking native population from the core of the city and into distant suburbs. It is disgusting what's happening here, and I'm honestly so sick of living here, I'd leave if I had the opportunity. Damn, boy. I need to find some Vancouver street interviews. That's what we need to look at. One of my best childhood friends died of a fentanyl OD. After a lot of struggles and heartache, he had been clean for 3 years, finished up his degree, and was engaged to an amazing woman. During a moment of weakness, one of his old drug buddies worried his way back in and convinced him to try the new stuff. He went into a coma almost immediately, and after lingering for 2 months, never came back out. I maintain close contact with his mother and try to keep her in our family circle, but I'm a poor substitute for her son. Now, see, if you begin to wonder why I was even talking about this, why should anybody care? Whatever, criminals, they're doing what they're doing, they're making money, they're money laundering. That's not my business. I'm a regular person. This is why it matters. When your town, when your city is getting so expensive you can barely afford to live there, or you can't live there anymore, you can't afford to live there anymore, and you move, when people that you know are getting hooked on drugs, and a lot of people that do drugs, a lot of homeless people that are suffering, people that are looking for a quick escape from their suffering, right? Let's say you're broke and you struggle paying bills, you know what I'm saying? Some people just go to drugs for a quick release. But then boom, fentanyl is so strong, like it's so easy to get hooked on it, bruh. It literally changes the chemical makeup in your brain. That's what addiction to drugs like this does. That's what they do. People are dying. This is why it matters. Look at these comments. This is why it matters. Because what they're doing up there, right? Because they're making money. They're making money on the death of people. On the struggle of people. This is why I'm talking about this. Because this shit is evil, bro. It's evil. It's evil, bro. It's evil as fuck. I'm from Vancouver, born and raised. All this is absolutely true. It's incredibly sad to watch, and result of it is most of the people who grew up here like me are being forced to leave because we can't afford to live here anymore. The most frustrating thing in our city council is very, very woke. And does nothing except declare accusations aimed at the CCP as a form of anti-Asian racism and provide housing. And oh my gosh, see? And this is why I also talk about this woke shit. The crying of fake racism, crying of all this other shit, crying of anti-Semitism, is because they use it. It's the communist playbook, Marxist playbook. If you criticize China, that means you're Asian phobic. Stop Asian hate. I got nothing against the Chinese people. I'm talking about the government. It's the CCP, okay? I'm talking about these criminals in the government and these criminals in the street are doing that is hurting people here and in Canada and everywhere, bro. But if you say something, what do they say? Oh, you hate Asian people. You're racist. You're xenophobic. Be fucking for real. Be for real. Look how all this stuff ties together. Socially, economically. This shit is crazy, bro. It's crazy. Hey. We're going to dive more into this topic. Again, shout out D. Blev, one of my top supporters, for putting me on game to really like dive into this whole thing. Because I definitely want to see more. I want to see things that Justin Trudeau has said about this, if he said anything at all. I want to see some street interviews in Vancouver. I want to see actual people and news reports. I want to see them. I want to showcase the suffering they're going through. Because look at all this shit, bro. Look at all this shit. Luckily, Florida don't really got to deal with that shit too much, but they here too. There's a lot of drug addicts on the street, on fentanyl, on heroin, on all types of shit. But it's not as bad compared to other places like San Francisco, California, Vancouver. God damn. Hey man, that's the video. I hope you learned something here today. Let me know if you have any information about this, any resources, any videos I should watch, any articles I should read, any books I should look into. Like they mentioned a couple books in this video, or while I was going through this. But yeah, a lot of shit, bro. But make sure you like, subscribe, share, comment, hit the notification bell down below, and join the Discord. Link in the description box. And I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.